time since 1979. Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez confirmed that the Cuban COVID-19 vaccine Abdala will be produced in a medical facility in Caracas. Presidential elections are underway in Djibouti, where President Ismail Omar Guelleh is seeking a fourth term. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. St. Vincent and the Grenadines National Emergency Management Organization confirmed on Friday the explosive eruption of La Soufriere volcano for the first time since 1979. Local media recorded ashfall as far south as the Argyle International Airport and plumes up to 8 kilometers. Given this situation, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves issued an evacuation order on Thursday as conditions at La Soufriere volcano deteriorated. The order applies to northeasterly and northwesterly communities in an area labeled the Red Zone, as they are in the immediate path of the raging volcano. The country is currently on red alert, which is the highest threat level as it braces for heightened activity, with all emergency shelters activated. Earlier, Professor Richard Robertson, the lead scientist monitoring the volcano, reported that there had been a significant change in activity with the onset of tremors, accompanied by gas venting, which was an indication that explosions could occur. Neighboring Barbados and St. Lucia have committed to provide assistance for evacuation efforts. Antigua and Barbuda's cabinet offered to accommodate 250 persons if evacuation is ordered in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The director of the National Office of Disaster Services, the chief immigration officer, the head of the Emergency Medical Services, and the manager of the Jolly Beach Hotel were invited to cabinet, where a plan to accommodate 250 Vicentinians fleeing the volcano was immediately worked out. The plan includes testing all arrivals from COVID-19, providing masks and other protective gear to ensure there is no opportunity for spread of any infectious disease, and also a safe place to rest and be fed. Antigua and Barbuda is also prepared to ship items to St. Vincent in the event populations gather in stadiums or playfields, and are in need of tents, blankets, cots, packaged food, and tablets to purify water. On Friday, 4 cruise ships are expected to reach the island, 2 from Royal Caribbean and 2 from Carnival Cruise Line, to ferry evacuees to nearby islands and shelters elsewhere in St. Vincent, and a 3rd Royal Caribbean ship is expected to arrive in coming days. Among the islands that have said they will accept evacuees include St. Lucia, Grenada, Barbados, and Antigua. La Soufriere last erupted in 1979, and the previous eruption in 1902 killed about 1,600 people. And we continue in this regard because the Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza noted on Twitter that in the coming hours, Venezuela will send humanitarian supplies and risk experts to cooperate in the preventive evacuation and relocation efforts in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, also saying that member countries of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America are on alert to coordinate the necessary support in the face of possible natural disaster stemming from the eruption of the La Soufriere volcano. Venezuela's Ombudsman Alfredo Ruiz announced on Thursday the foundation of a special commission to address human rights violations against La Victoria's population in Apure state. According to Ruiz, the commission will be integrated by 2 lawyers specialized in human rights matters to continue carrying out the proper investigations on the presence of Colombian armed groups in the border region. The commission will document the facts behind the Colombian narco groups that carried out destabilizing actions to break the peace of Venezuela in disregard of the safety and human rights of the inhabitants of Apure state, which is a borderline territory with Colombia. It is important to recall that Venezuela's government recently sent a letter to the headquarters of the United Nations and the community of Latin American and Caribbean states requesting the support and collaboration of their offices to establish a channel of communication with the Colombian government and also the authorities to request the demining of the entire sector of La Victoria, a poor state and surrounding areas. In El Salvador, according to official figures, femicide increased during the first quarter of 2021. The human rights defender Celia Medrano stated that the government must implement necessary measures to protect the female community from disappearances and violence, while the government continues to make no statement on the increase in the number of cases of femicide registered. According to the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean and also the United Nations, El Salvador tops the list of femicides in the Americas with a rate of 6.8 murders per 100,000 women. On Thursday afternoon, the Permanent Commission of the Peruvian Congress approved the report that recommends banning former President Martín Vizcarra from holding public office. The report also approved to ban ex-Health Minister Pilar Maseri and former Foreign Affairs Minister Elizabeth Astete over the irregular vaccination against COVID-19 with doses intended for researchers in a clinical study. The disqualification against Vizcarra was approved by 26 votes, 0 against, and no abstentions. According to Congressman Jim Ali Mamani, Vizcarra is in his capacity former President of the Republic, is accused of 6 constitutional infractions by having secretly vaccinated against COVID-19. This Sunday, April 11th, citizens in Ecuador and Peru will vote to elect their presidents, while Bolivia will hold the second round vote to elect governors in 4 departments. This Thursday saw the close of campaign activities by candidates and political parties in each of the 3 nations, as they enter a pre-election silence period. In Ecuador, presidential candidates Andrés Araúz and Guillermo Lasso finished their campaigns in different cities. Meanwhile, the 18 presidential candidates in Peru closed their campaigns mostly online. The country will also see the election of the 130 members of the Congress of Peru. The campaign for governors in the Bolivian departments of La Paz, Tarija, Chuquisaca, and Pando also drew to an end, as the electoral silence period begins before people head to the polls. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. On Thursday, Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez confirmed that the Cuban vaccine Abdala will be produced in a biomedical facility in Caracas. The state-owned pharmaceutical company Espromed Bio will produce the vaccine with which Venezuela plans to immunize its population. On Thursday, Vice President Rodriguez and Cuban ambassador to Caracas, Dagoberto Gomez, visited the lab to verify that the required conditions are guaranteed for the production of the Abdala vaccine. According to information provided by Cuba's Health Minister José Ángel Portal Miranda, both vaccine candidates Abdala and Soberana O2 are safe, and they are creating a positive immune response and a few mild and moderate adverse reactions. The National Council of Health Secretaries of Brazil reported a new record of more than 4,200 fatalities from transmission to COVID-19 in just one day. After the recent fatalities from the virus, the country accumulates more than 345,000 deaths from the disease. The health entity also reported more than 86,600 new infections due to the P1 and P2 variants, and it adds that there are a total of more than 13,200 million cases throughout the country. Residents of the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro, aged over 65, have been receiving COVID-19 shots at one of the city's most traditional samba schools, Cacique de Ramos, which was turned into a vaccination site as the country faces a deadly surge of the coronavirus and a lack of necessary measures from the government or far-right President Jair Bolsonaro.
Looking forward to the time when I would get the vaccine because I am hypertensive and I have high blood sugar problems, so the risk is great. I have the feeling of a duty accomplished on my part in resorting to improve my health standard.
Poor neighborhoods in Brazil have received a boost in their fight against COVID-19 with an innovative project that unites public and private institutions in an effort to curb the spread of the virus. Many residents of disadvantaged areas of the country have had to seek alternatives to survive the health crisis and the economic crisis in the midst of abandonment by the federal government.
We provide three main services: health security. We also provide COVID-19 tests, serological and PCR tests, and support for safe isolation, supporting residents with food and cleaning products. Besides the security of having food aid, there is also psychological and medical assistance. Sometimes you go to the family clinic and it's full and you are tired. I think that that's the importance of the project, not only food but all the assistance.
We have not had a single death because we take the oximeter to the patient's home to control and refer them when necessary, neither before nor after. Of course, when the healthcare system is not collapsed. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter if we brought the oximeter to the person's home. But I am sure that the impact on people's lives by having social, economic and health support makes a difference, something the state does not provide.
In Argentina, restrictions were tightened this Friday with curfews and limits on social gatherings after health authorities reported a record daily infection rate. Argentine health authorities reported on Thursday more than 23,000 COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. With this announcement, large outdoor and indoor meetings have been banned. Nevertheless, bars and restaurants are allowed to remain open until 11 o'clock at night. Also, a night curfew has been imposed between midnight and 6 a.m. The new measures will last until the end of the month. The South American country has reported around 2.5 million infections and over 57,000 deaths since the beginning of the pandemic. In Colombia, the Comptroller General denounced the violation of the vaccination policy that should prioritize vulnerable populations in the official campaign against the coronavirus. The Comptroller's complaint is based on the investigation carried out by the Director of Information, Analysis and Immediate Reaction DRE, which identified that at least 1,241 people who did not belong to vulnerable groups were vaccinated. After the lockdown was lifted in central China's Wuhan city, the local economy has been revived through concerted efforts along with a range of support policies at various levels and among different sectors. The COVID-19 outbreak in the city and the lockdown rapidly established to curb the spread of the virus took a heavy toll on the once vigorous local economy. Wuhan gross domestic product in the first quarter of 2020 suffered a sharp decline of about 40%. However, despite the recession, the city soon recovered and grew rapidly over the next 3 quarters after having controlled the epidemic in record time. Official statistics show Wuhan's GDP in 2020 exceeded $240 billion, ranking among the top 10 in the country. In the UK, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Queen Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip, at the age of 99. Prince Philip was admitted to hospital on February 16, 2021, and went home after a month during which he was treated for a pre-existing heart condition and also an infection. The death of the Duke of Edinburgh occurred just months before his 100th birthday in June. Philip had a lower public profile in recent years, partly due to the embarrassment caused by his constant racist statements. In the event that I am reincarnated, I would like to return as a deadly virus to contribute something to solving our repopulation. He said, Also, he was from a family with very strong ties to Nazi Germany. Not only was he trained in the Hitler Youth curriculum, but his German brothers-in-law, with whom he lived, all became high-ranking figures in the Nazi Party. Last year, with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, one of his renowned controversial statements came back to haunt him. So far, Buckingham Palace has not informed when his funeral will take place. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Voting began on Friday in Djibouti, where Ismail Omar Guelleh is seeking a fifth term as president of the small but strategically located nation that he has ruled for 22 years. Some 215,000 citizens are registered to vote in the ballot casting on Friday. Polling stations opened across the arid Horn of Africa nation, which overlooks one of the world's busiest trade routes at the crossroads between Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. Election observers say the process was rolling out smoothly, although voters were in no rush to cast their ballots. Voting closes at 7 p.m. and the results are expected by the evening. President of Djibouti, Ismail Omar Guelleh, said that the election has taken place in good conditions just after voting in the presidential election.
The election has taken place in good conditions. Thank God it has been peaceful, and above all, thank God the people came out to participate. Now we will wait for the results. I have fulfilled my responsibility.
In Benin, one person was killed and at least 6 were wounded by gunfire on Thursday, according to local officials and witnesses after troops cleared protesters just days before the presidential elections. Opposition protests erupted this week, and several people were detained in the West African country ahead of Sunday's vote, in which President Patrice Talon is seeking re-election and is expected also to win. Opposition sectors claim the vote is skewed in Talon's favor. A column of military vehicles arrived early Thursday to disperse demonstrators in the central city of Save, an opposition stronghold where makeshift barricades of trees and tires block a major road. With only 3 days to go until the presidential election in Benin, voters remain split, although current President Patrice Talon is expected to secure a second term in office.
The fact that the politicians got into the game, they made a political play. We are disappointed. Because politicians, we have profiteering politicians in this country. We have known profiteering politicians. I tell you, profiteers, they are not here to fight. President Patrice Talon, what he has done is enormous, because since 1960 we have not yet seen a president in Benin who has worked like that in this country. Seriously, in these 5 years that he has done many strange things. He has put things in order. Everything is going well.
Seoul's foreign ministry said on Friday that Iran has released a South Korean oil tanker and its captain 3 months after it was seized for alleged oil pollution. The foreign ministry said the vessel, with its captain and 12 other crew members on board, departed the Iranian port on Friday morning. The release came amid speculation that Seoul and Tehran may have made progress in resolving the Middle Eastern country's call to unblock $7 million worth of Iranian funds frozen in South Korea under the U.S. sanctions. Yet, Iran has not commented on the matter. Iran and the 5 world powers that remain in the 2015 nuclear deal were holding their second formal meeting on Friday to discuss ways of bringing back the United States on board. Vienna performed on Tuesday the diplomatic affairs to balance the concerns and interests of both and Tehran. France, Germany, Britain, China and Russia are still parties to the deal known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action along with Iran. They are meeting 3 days after Russia's delegates said they agreed to set up expert-level groups on the lifting of sanctions on nuclear issues, which are supposed to identify measures to be taken by both Iran and the US to revive the accord fully. In Langlong Township near Dawei, residents marched against the Myanmar military forces on Friday. Despite fears of a violent reaction from the security forces, people in this southern Myanmar area have maintained public opposition to the takeover for many weeks. Threats of lethal violence and arrests of protesters have failed to suppress daily demonstrations demanding the military step down and reinstate the democratically elected government. These military actions reverse years of slow progress towards democracy in the Southeast Asian country. According to the Assistant Association for Political Prisoners, around 600 protesters and bystanders have been killed by security forces since the takeover. Palestinians have dismissed the U.S. decision to resume financial support to the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, noting that Palestinians will only be truly benefited when the U.S. ends its support for the illegal Israeli occupation. The Biden administration's decision to restore U.S. aid of about $235 million marked a sharp break with the Donald Trump's policy, who severed all financial assistance. The new funding is in addition to $15 million announced earlier by the United States in COVID assistance to Palestinians amid criticism that Israel, a leader in vaccinating its own people, has failed to vaccinate Palestinians in territories under its occupation, despite its legal obligation to do so. However, the UN agency has stressed its needs have increased due to COVID-19 and the hardships faced by Palestinian refugees living in Syria, Lebanon and Jordan.
These funds are politicized. The money that goes to the authority and UNRWA is politicized and used to pressure us, to weaken us politically and force us to make political concessions to coincide with the plans proposed by United States and Israel.
And we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us and follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.